So cancer is now getting much more attention than, for example, 10 years ago when we mostly spoke about the infectious disease. So there's no question, cancer is getting more attention. You ask us, is it enough? It's never enough. And also there is so much to do that it's very important that people don't get impatient, because Rome was not built overnight. Neither will our cancer care improve overnight, but one step at a time.
So you were in Switzerland all through, right?
Yeah, I was in Geneva.
That's fabulous. The press release you shared with me indicated some conversations actually happened, especially with the side event. Can you give me insight into the back end around getting the resolution approved? What kind of advocacy that you can share led to that important moment?
The resolution has to be proposed by a country, and our resolution was proposed by Ministry of Health from Cameroon, and they work with the executive committee of WHO. They rewrite and edit the resolution according to all the countries that are members of the board of WHO. Our resolution was approved by the executive board in February, but because of all the budget cuts that happened with United States and Argentina withdrawing from WHO, we were really not sure it will be approved. But it was approved. It was they have a big push. To push. One is national national health policies, and it was in that group. And the second one is that our resolution is about importance of imaging in all non-communicable diseases, NCD. And that is also going to be discussed in big parts at the upcoming UN Assembly in September, UNGA. And second, there is a tremendous return on investment. So we were able to appeal both to those that care to save human lives and those for whom economical impact is important. And I think those 2 points really played a role why we were successful with the resolution.
The resolution is captured in EB 15617.
Yes.
Strengthening medical imaging capacity.
I want to tell you something. There are many elements and they are all important. Infrastructure, workforce, policy, everything. But the bottom line is that this resolution will then almost mandate government to put, and that's to me the most important, imaging in the national health policies, and imaging will be reimbursed for. Right now, when they have a CT, many patients cannot afford to pay for CT, and this will be a tremendous boom for equity. So improve patient access to medical care so they can afford it. Right now, we have cases in Ghana, sold everything they had so a member of the tribe can have a CT. And this resolution will help with that. So everybody the equality in healthcare. And that, to me, is the most important part of the resolution. Everything is important, but the fact that we move the needle and that we will improve patient access, that to me is a tremendously important equity.
What do you think aligned properly to make it this particular assembly that the resolution was passed? What do you think worked in favor of this resolution this year?
I think what worked in our favor, one, we were relentless in lobbying. But I mean, not lobbying professional societies. So the professional societies very strongly came up front. For example, the society, neuro society that's in China that deals with stroke. A stroke is a huge problem in Africa. 70% of all deaths to stroke are actually in low middle income countries. And the big reason for that is they don't have access to CT, and CT is essential to make the diagnosis and guide treatment. So we were able to ignite those societies to support us. Another one is cardiovascular. Cardiovascular is still a number one cause of death, and imaging in cardiovascular to make the diagnosis, to know what to do, is extremely important. So I think engaging professional societies, and we worked very hard. This is not a one-day job. We worked for the last year to get in touch with the societies. ASCO, which is a bigger cancer society, we asked them to do testimonial videos. Why do they support the resolution? And then we were lucky enough that we got networking and worked with the number of ministries of health. So it was really hard work, but a very strategically organized. And IAEA helped. We should definitely mention IAEA was on our side, as was the WHO, but they alone would never be able to do something like this.
One of the things required now for member states is to implement policies to ensure quality, safe, and affordable imaging services. So what is the plan now? What is next in line?
So next in line is we're going to meet. We're going to write out a strategy, a plan, and then we're going to work very closely with the WHO, because we need their help, and we also need the help of IAEA, and we also need the help of the World Bank and other financial institutions, as well as industry. So it will be a lot of work, but I can promise you it will be organized. It will be stepwise, and we'll do our best. And also we have a good connection with a number of international societies in radiology, because you have to have people on the ground to implement. So we'll work with local organizations to implement. I really believe, just like we did with this resolution, there has to be a plan, and you cannot, we always say, you cannot build a roof unless you have a basement, right?
Considering how big the global scene is and how countries may not be going at the same pace, where do you expect to see this resolution quickly translating into life-saving measures?
It's always good to have a case study. You select one or two countries that you're already working with, and you already have people in place in the country that are willing to do that and really want to do that. And then you do the case study and you learn, because every country is different. Every country has different benchmarks in what they really need, and you really know. So that you cannot have an umbrella strategy. You can have umbrella main points, but the granular strategy always has to be country specific. And we're going to select a few countries that we're going to try and learn, and then move to another set of countries.
From the way you are describing, it looks like it's still a very, very long way to go. So I'm curious to know around the imaging landscape right now. We have the countries that are going to benefit. We have experts like you. Let's also talk about the innovation landscape. Do you think the imaging innovation landscape has evolved to the extent that equity is now within reach?
The industry is a big part of all of this, and industry helped us as well, but also is designing. I don't want to highlight only one industry, but they are designing low field magnets in MRI. They are designing, very eager to have the equipment that has outstanding quality, but is designed, it will cost much less, and it is designed with low middle income countries in mind. And it's going for the same for CT, the same for MRI, and then obviously already ultrasound is a point of care modality. And a lot of digital health, a lot of AI, the implementation of AI. And I think this resolution was passed just in the right time with all those developments.
Beyond imaging, so how would you describe attention to cancer in general at this World Health Assembly?
So the cancer in general is receiving right now a lot of attention. Cancer imaging for many, many years. There are so many universities around the world, both Europe, Australia, United States, and little less, but some from Asia, that were very, very willing to help low middle income countries, that organized teaching courses, that would send their faculty to teach, and would also accept students from low middle income countries. But now I think we are at a point where large organizations like ASCO or ESMO, that's a European one, really have organized efforts to improve cancer care in low middle income countries. And for innovation in Africa, you have aortic. And aortic is like the big giant is no longer that sleepy. I think it has waken up. So there are a lot of efforts. There are a number of excellent clinical trials going on. And I think we are really moving cancer care to a next level in low middle income countries. There's really a lot of hope.
What potential impact do you expect this resolution to have, and what is still missing in the pieces to put all of this together?
Everything is missing. We have to build the infrastructure. One of the biggest challenges is the workforce, educated workforce. But when you talk about educated workforce, it's not just physicians. Physicians are only one part. It's nursing, it's technicians, it's community workers, it's the entire team. And there we have huge problems. So we know we have a lot of problems, but we're going to just step. But I would say if you ask me what's the number one challenge, it's the workforce, because infrastructure money can buy, and you can find people that are willing to invest. But the workforce, human power, and another one, and that introduction of digital health and AI. But for that, you need to educate the workforce. You cannot just give them the AI software. You have to educate how to use, how to get best out of. And for the AI companies, they have to make sure that what they develop doesn't have a bias. Because if they develop their algorithms on a purely white population, it's not going to work in Africa. So there is a lot of work in that. So I would really say workforce and developing AI that is not biased to any ethnic group, or probably they're going to have different programs that you can apply or give to different populations.
Do you think cancer is now getting the right attention at the assembly, or do you still think there is still a long way to go compared to the time devoted to other topics at the assembly?
So cancer is now getting much more attention than, for example, 10 years ago, when we mostly spoke about the infectious disease. So there's no question, cancer is getting more attention. You ask us, is it enough? It's never enough. And also there is so much to do that it's very important that people don't get impatient, because Rome was not built overnight. Neither will our cancer care improve overnight, but one step at a time.
One of the things that I read in the resolution is the responsibilities of what the DG of WHO is now requested to do, and this includes technical assistance and guidance to improve imaging access, supporting training and integrating advances like AI and teleradiology into imaging systems. And I think in the way you actually spoke, I know you have a lot of high hopes for telemedicine and of course artificial intelligence in developing countries. Why do you see a lot of potentials in AI in expanding access to people that may not be able to have that access before?
AI is developing so rapidly. We didn't have the tools before, so that's number one. Now, number two, the World Bank in their annual report last year predicted that the use of AI and implementation of AI in the low middle income countries is going to leapfrog the high income countries. And the reason for that is they don't have a choice, because there are no people. So they're going to be, it's not, I shouldn't say force, but it will be natural for them to rely on AI. And I think it will permeate. It just, those are many of those things people would say are hopes and dreams, and they are. But, it's always a dream, and then you have a resource and strategy, and you make it a reality.
In this space of advocacy that you're actively involved in, how do you convince countries that have very limited resources and would rather say that we have a lot of competing needs? For instance, we need to talk about infectious diseases and NCDs, and even in the space of cancer, there are a lot of issues like investing in preventive measures, imaging, also treatment. So how do you convince them to still rank imaging high on their priority list?
Everything has priority. You cannot diagnose without imaging. And if you don't make a correct diagnosis, you're not going to have a correct treatment. So imaging is the beginning of having a proper treatment. There's no early detection. Take breast cancer or lung cancer. Early detection is essential, but early detection requires imaging. Correct diagnosis it requires imaging guidance for biopsy, requires biopsy, which is imaging, and pathology. If you don't have a diagnosis, you cannot treat. So this is where the imaging is at the entry point of improving healthcare. Now, prevention is extremely important, vaccines, everything. But when you talk about treatment, either for cancer, cardiovascular, stroke, you need a diagnosis before you can treat. So investing a big time in therapy, but not having imaging to diagnose would not make sense.
Imagine from this assembly, what are you personally optimistic about?
Oh, first of all, when the attention to imaging, the people, governments, you have to, there are no good people or bad people. You have to educate. And just the education of the policymakers that imaging is important, it's like waking them up. Some of them really, not by their fault, had very little understanding how essential imaging is in making the diagnosis, in selecting the proper treatment, in follow-up after treatment to see if it's done. I'll give you an example, like a patient with cervical cancer. If you don't have imaging and you go and have surgery and the cancer is too spread, it's a waste of time, waste of patient's well-being, everything. But if you have imaging, then it's going to point out to you who can have surgery because the disease is small, who can have radiation therapy, or where the disease has so widespread that really only medical therapy helps. And that type of education for the policymakers is very important. And believe it or not, right now, that's a big part of our lobbying, just talking and explaining why are certain things important and why is pathology important. And then you go to therapy.
I know your involvement with the Lancet Commission compared with the components of the resolution and what the Lancet Commission covered. Are there still anything that is left out in what you covered in the commission that is still not included in this resolution?
So from our commission, now the resolution is based on 3 Lancet commissions. One is the Lancet Commission on Imaging and Nuclear Medicine. The Lancet Commission is Sub-Sahara Africa. And the third one is Lancet Commission on radiation therapy and radiotheranostics. So the key points from each of those commissions are used. They are really incorporated into the resolution.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. Thanks. Bye.